The Wuhan lab leak theory seems more plausible by the day. And if there's nothing to hide, why are all the documents released about it heavily redacted? Hello there, you 5 million awakening souls. Welcome to the channel where you can freely discuss truth. Wherever you come from, whoever you are, whatever you have suffered, here is a place where we can have an open dialogue together. Now, if you receive something, a bit of information that's heavily redacted, like, if I, for example, gave you this bit of paper and went, don't read any of that bit, would you say, probably what's under that bit is stuff that we wouldn't be worried about? Or would you think, are you hiding something? When people object to surveillance and data capture, what's the mantra always flung? Well, if you've not done anything wrong, you've got nothing to hide. Well, then what's being hidden in these redacted documents? What's being hidden around the Wuhan lab leak theory? We'll get into the story, but first I want to invite you to join me in March and April in gigs all over the north of England. I'm in Scarborough, Sheffield, Carlisle, Newcastle, Hull, Bristol. There's a link in the description for your tickets. Click on it. You'll love it. I speak freely and passionately there. You'll have a great time. Let's get into this story, shall we? This is from Sharon Lerner, writing in The Intercept. With the global death toll from COVID-19 approaching 6 million, stop it, the need to understand the origins of the pandemic is both pressing and grave. But the National Institutes of Health continue to withhold critical documents that could shed light on this question. This week, in response to ongoing litigation over public records related to coronavirus research funded by the federal agency, the NIH sent The Intercept 292 fully redacted pages rather than substantive material that could help us understand how the virus first came to infect humans. If you're going to send someone 292 totally redacted pages, what's the point? I mean, you might as well not bother sending it. There you go. Well, it's just a black block of nothingness. Yes, there you go. Confusing, isn't it, life? What went on in that lab? Well, just read for yourself. Nothing. Yeah, nothing. More or less nothing. At this point, no one can say for sure how SARS-CoV-2 set off the pandemic. Well, perhaps some of these mysteries might be unravelled if you were a bit less intense with a Sharpie. I don't know, I can't work it out. I've been studying this for ages. It may have emerged naturally, jumping from a host animal to people, as many other deadly pathogens have. Or the coronavirus could have first spread to humans as the result of a research mishap through bat capture and collection, risky experiments, or a host of other more mundane lab activities. US intelligence agencies have assessed both theories as possible. So that's not misinformation, because the US intelligence agencies have said it's possible. So if this is misinformation and possibly terrorism, it's the US intelligence agencies. And I don't think anyone would want to accuse US intelligence agencies of terrorism. But knowing exactly what led to the worst disease outbreak in recent history requires more information. And of course, it would be naive and foolish to suggest that of the two outcomes, it came out of a laboratory which had accepted funding from American institutions, or it occurred in nature. I mean, I suppose they'd be neutral about which one of those. I mean, it's not like one of those possible alternatives is quite condemnatory towards a set of interests that would probably rather you thought it came from a naughty bat hopping about causing bother, which it might have done. US agencies say both theories are possible, that one and that one. The lab leak hypothesis is bolstered by a long history of accidents. How long's that history of accidents? It's pretty long. It's going right back over there. Ooh, that's not good. Redacting. The lab leak hypothesis is bolstered by a long history of accidents at facilities that study pathogens. How come 6 months ago, if you said out loud, what if it come from that Wuhan Institute of Virology, you were literally kicked off the internet? How come no one can say, well, I understand your need for caution. This is complicated times and we've got a lot of measures, but there is a long history of accidents. Whoa, way over there, the beginning of the history, it's way back past the old woodshed there. That's the beginning of lab leak accidents and the history thereof. That's mad, isn't it? How misinformation changes over time and that some information is still being redacted. And the fact that one such laboratory that specialises in coronaviruses, the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China, is located in the very city where the pandemic first began. Don't get redacting. As many have noted, China has not been forthcoming with information that could help us understand the origins of the pandemic, blocking access to a cave that may hold important clues. Maybe it is Batman. taking a database of information about coronaviruses offline. That database, get that offline. Hey, what was in that? Nothing. Why'd you remove it then?
Because we were using that database to organise a surprise birthday party for you. And you've just spoiled it. Well done. I can't believe you thought there was something about coronaviruses in there that might be incriminating. Go on, get out. Where was the party going to be? It was going to be in that bat cave. That's why we closed it off. It was Batman themed. Oh, and you thought we caused it. Mummy got bad headache.
Sorry about that. Taking a database of information about coronaviruses offline and refusing requests for records from the World Health Organization.
Why doesn't Bill Gates just ask me himself?
But the US government, which funded some of the coronavirus research at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, could you get the black pen? For a New York-based research organisation called EcoHealth Alliance, has also withheld information that could provide insights into the origins of the pandemic. Turns out China and the United States aren't that different after all. Maybe those guys will learn to get along. The Intercept filed a Freedom of Information Act request in September 2020 for grants the NIH provided to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. At the time, only summaries of the research were publicly available. The NIH initially refused to provide the documents. It was only after the Intercept sued the federal agency that it agreed to provide thousands of pages of relevant materials. Some of these releases have proven newsworthy. The grant proposals received in an initial batch of documents in September revealed that scientists working under the grant in Wuhan were engaged in what most knowledgeable experts we consulted described as gain-of-function experiments in which scientists created mutant bat coronaviruses and used them to infect humanized mice. Just an innocent experiment of mutating bat coronaviruses and injecting them into mice.
What, and you think that could lead to infection in humans? We were infecting those mice for your birthday and you ruined it. Oh, get out of here. I can't believe you thought that was something to do with this man. No, I don't want to know. Go stay with your father.
Humanized mice. How do you even humanize a mouse? Right, put these little trousers on, sit there, and don't try to go anywhere without this little passport. Okay, boys! The mutant viruses prove more pathogenic and transmissible in the mice than the original viruses. Anthony Fauci, I've heard of that guy. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, denied that the US had funded gain-of-function work in Wuhan.
I can't believe you thought that was gain-of-function. One of those humanized mice was going to be your new father. Yes, that's right, but you've spoiled it. You're not going in that bat cave, not for a long time.
Communications received by The Intercept in December provided insight into the agency's ongoing and largely unsuccessful efforts to obtain records pertaining to the biosafety of the work conducted at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. And another grant proposal from EcoHealth Alliance that we received from the NIH clarified the extent to which ongoing work now funded by the US government is similar to the work under the now suspended bat coronavirus grant that has raised so many biosafety red flags and questions. We also learned that in 2020, the FBI sought documents related to the US-funded coronavirus research in Wuhan. But the most recent batch of documents, which the NIH sent the Intercept on Tuesday, underscores an ongoing lack of transparency at the agency. Even as scientists call for additional information that could shed light on the origins of the pandemic, 292 of 314 pages, more than 90% of the current release, were completely redacted. Imagine you couldn't watch 90% of this video. You'd miss all those brilliant jokes about it being someone's birthday party. That's not a revelation of information. And obviously there are a set of complex priorities at play here with this pandemic. You don't want to create hysteria. But if you're trying to actually understand how something as significant as this pandemic, whatever you believe about it, and I know there's a variety of opinions and feelings around this condition out there, as there would be in a large audience such as we are blessed and privileged to have, you have to recognise that transparency around the information is absolutely vital. And you also have to query what might be the agenda that is at play if you're heavily redacting the information. You're redacting it because the stuff that's in there is so great that it's going to make everyone run down the street, clicking their heels and saying, wow, I really trust the government. I'm glad they're doing that research and behaving in such a responsible way around complex scientific issues and being so free and easy with information? Or do you think that it's likely that the stuff in there would shock you, astonish you, make you heavily doubt their trust? Given the function of government is control and so the maintenance of that control, it's pretty clear that the information they are redacting would in some way be a challenge to that authority. That would be my guess. 90% were completely redacted, besides a big grey rectangle that obscures any meaningful text. The pages show only a date, page number, and the NIAID logo. There you go, there's your document. Well, it's just a date and a logo. That's right. Well, how does that help us understand the coronavirus origins? Exactly. The remaining pages also contained significant redactions. That's another example, isn't it, of how the government sidesteps an issue like transparency. Listen, this is democracy, by the people, for the people, with the people, all that stuff. So when we ask for information, you give us it. Oh God, this freedom of information could lead to problems. Don't worry, we stick a redaction clause in. The information that they get won't have any value. And when do you see this information covered in the mainstream media? Never. What do they cover instead? The unvaccinated and truckers. That's the problems. I think that the unvaccinated and truckers, even if they were to gang up together, don't have as much power as the American government, the government agencies, the government of China, the mainstream media, all of whom appear to be colluding in conveying a particular narrative and literally redacting what seems to be significant information if the intention were transparency and to better understand the origins of a condition that has certainly been very serious and impactful to all the world's people. Even when redactions are technically justifiable under the Freedom of Information Act, public agencies typically have the discretion to release documents anyway. In this inquiry, which could help us understand how the pandemic began and how we might avoid future outbreaks, the presumption should be to give the public as much information as possible, not the least. What would you prefer? Or are you too stupid to make those decisions for yourself? Do you need those decisions made for you? Or do you prefer to have some agency and some control over your own life? The NIH still had more than 1,400 pages of relevant documents in its possession when it issued the almost entirely redacted release to The Intercept. Despite broad bipartisan agreement about the need to better understand whether research could have led to the deadliest disease outbreak in recent history, the agency appears to have no urgency to make this critical information public. I would suggest that in future instantiations of democracy, that kind of transparency would just be expected and accepted in the same way as you wouldn't allow lobbying, in the same way as you wouldn't allow stock market speculation, in the same way as you would distribute power so as many people as possible could contribute to democratic processes that affect their own lives. So many obvious ideas that don't require recourse to the horrors of the last century of fascism or communism. This technology that's being used to create dystopia could be used to create a fairer, more accessible, transparent, more democratic world. But it won't happen unless we participate in its creation. But that's just what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. It's vital that you comment and thumbs up and subscribe and like and share this video with as many people as possible, wherever you're watching it. If you're watching it on YouTube or if you're watching it on Rumble, give it a thumbs up, give it a like, spread it around in a sensible way. And if it proves out that we've spread it too quickly, we can always redact that information. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at this one or this one. And if you're in the UK, come and see me live. I'm all over the north of England. Also, I'm in Bristol and Plymouth down in the south. I'm in Glasgow in Scotland. There's a link in the description where you can get your tickets to come see me live. Stay free.